You walk into the airport. You're just trying to catch a flight. But behind the walls, behind the screens, the cameras, and the checkpoints, something has changed. Airports around the world are now running AI systems that analyze your face, your walk, your behavior, and your history in real time before you ever speak to a single officer. Most travelers have no idea this is happening. This video is going to show you exactly what these systems are, what they're looking for, what happens when they flag you, and what you can do about it. 1. This is not science fiction. This technology is already running at airports you've flown through. People hear AI surveillance at airports and think it sounds like a movie. It's not. As of 2026, facial recognition and AI-powered behavioral analysis systems are actively operating at major airports across the United States, United Kingdom, European Union, Australia, China, India, and the United Arab Emirates. In the US alone, US Customs and Border Protection, CBP, has deployed facial recognition at over 230 airports. The system is called the Biometric Entry-Exit Program, and it has processed hundreds of millions of travelers. The TSA has been piloting AI-powered identity verification at dozens of major airports. Delta, United, and American Airlines have all partnered with these programs at major hubs Atlanta, Dallas, Los Angeles, New York JF, the K, Miami, and more. In the UK, eGates using facial recognition now handle the majority of passport control at Heathrow, Gatwick, and Manchester. Most people don't realize this. You may have already been scanned by one of these systems on your last flight without being explicitly told it was happening. This isn't the future, it's already your present. 2. What AI is actually watching for. It's not just your face, it's everything. When people think about AI at airports, they picture face scanning. That's only a small part of it. Modern airport AI systems analyze multiple data points simultaneously across multiple systems that talk to each other. Facial recognition matches your face against government databases, watch lists, and travel records. It can verify your identity in under 2 seconds and flag a mismatch just as fast. Behavioral analysis AI monitors how you move through the airport, your walking speed, whether you're looking around frequently, whether you stop and start, double back, or show what algorithms classify as irregular movement patterns. Gait recognition used in China and being tested in Europe can identify you from the way you walk, even if your face is covered or turned away from the camera. Baggage X-ray AI uses machine learning to identify suspicious items in your luggage faster and more accurately than human screeners. It can flag shapes, densities, and object combinations that would take a human analyst longer to catch. Predictive risk scoring pulls in your travel history, booking patterns, payment method, how far in advance you bought your ticket, whether you have a return flight, and dozens of other data points, then generates a risk score that follows your boarding pass through every checkpoint. But here's where it gets serious. These systems don't just react, they predict. They're looking for patterns that historically correlate with concerning behavior, and they flag anomalies before anything suspicious has actually happened. You can be flagged not for what you did, but for how your behavior compares to a statistical model of what normal looks like. 3. The risk score. You don't know you have. There is a number attached to your name right now. You've never seen it. Every time you book a flight, data is collected. That data feeds into systems operated by governments and airlines that build what's called a passenger name record, or PNR. Your PNR contains your name, passport number, seat selection, payment details, contact information, travel history, and more. This record is analyzed automatically by AI systems before you arrive at the airport. In the US, the Automated Targeting System, ATS, run by CBP assigns a risk assessment score to international travelers. It considers where you've traveled in the past, how you paid for your ticket, cash purchases score higher, whether your travel pattern matches known risk profiles, whether your name or passport triggers any watch list matches, whether anything in your travel history is considered anomalous. This score determines how closely you'll be scrutinized at the border before you've said a single word to anyone. Most people don't realize this. Your score can be affected by where other people on your itinerary have traveled. If your connecting flight originated in a country flagged as high risk, that factor is weighted into your assessment even if you've never set foot in that country. The system is not infallible. It flags innocent travelers regularly, and you have very limited rights to know what your score is or why it was generated. This is the part that surprises everyone. In the US, you can submit a request through the DHS TRIP, Traveler Redress Inquiry Program, to dispute or review your screening record. Most travelers have never heard of it. 4. Facial recognition. What actually happens at the gate. The camera at the gate is not just checking you in. You walk up to the boarding gate, you see a camera, an agent looks at a screen. Here's what's actually happening. The camera captures your face and runs it against a database in real time. The system checks your image against the photo on file with your government ID or passport, the CBP or equivalent border agency's biometric database, international watch lists and no-fly lists, your airline's loyalty profile photo. In some cases, the match happens in under 2 seconds. If it matches above a confidence threshold, you board. The process is seamless. Most travelers don't even notice it happened. But if the match comes back below the confidence threshold or triggers a watch list hit the gate, agent is immediately alerted. And then things move very quickly. You'll be asked to step aside. A supervisor is called. Your boarding pass is flagged in the system, and you are now the subject of a manual review, even if you did absolutely nothing wrong. False positives cases where the AI incorrectly flags an innocent person are more common than the agencies publicly acknowledge. Studies have shown that older facial recognition systems have error rates as high as 10 to 35% for certain demographic groups, including darker-skinned women and older travelers. The systems deployed in 2025 and 2026 are more accurate, but they are not perfect. And when the system flags you incorrectly, you are the one who has to prove the error while standing at a gate, with a flight about to depart. 5. What flagged actually means. Being flagged is not an accusation, but it feels like one. When an AI system flags you, nothing on the outside changes immediately. You won't see a red light flash, no alarm goes off, no announcement is made. What happens is quieter and in some ways more unsettling. A note appears in your file. A signal is sent to the next checkpoint you'll reach. Officers at that checkpoint are told to give you a closer look. You may be watched for several minutes before anyone approaches you. Sometimes the flag results in what's called SSSS, marking Secondary Security Screening Selection, printed directly on your boarding pass. If you see 4 S's printed on your pass, you have been selected for enhanced screening. This can happen randomly, but it can also be triggered by your risk profile or a flag in the system. What does enhanced screening involve? Full body pat-down, swab test for explosives residue on your hands and bags, full manual search of your carry-on, possible questions about your travel purpose, your contacts at your destination, and what's in specific items in your bag. It is legal, it is often uncomfortable, and it can take 20 to 45 minutes or longer if officers want to escalate further. But here's where it gets serious. Being flagged once makes it slightly more likely you'll be flagged again. The system notes the enhanced screening in your travel record. Future AI risk assessments factor in past screening events. Not because you were found guilty of anything, but because the data is there and the algorithm weighs it. 6. Behavioral AI, the system watching how you act. You don't have to do anything wrong. You just have to act different. Facial recognition is visible. There are cameras, you can see them. Behavioral AI is harder to spot because it's watching everything. Airports in the EU, UK, Israel, and the UAE have deployed AI behavioral analysis systems that monitor passengers through crowds. These systems look for sudden changes in walking pace, repeated circling or looping through the same area, prolonged stationary behavior in non-waiting areas, eye movement patterns in some close-range systems, agitated physical movements, rapid gesturing, pacing, contact patterns, who approaches you. These behaviors individually are completely normal. People slow down when they're lost. People look around when they're anxious about a flight. People stand still when they're on the phone. But the AI isn't evaluating individual behaviors. It's calculating a behavioral signature, a composite profile, and comparing it against patterns statistically associated with people who have caused problems at airports in the past. This is called anomaly detection. And the system's definition of anomalous is based on who built the model and what data they trained it on. Most people don't realize this. Anomaly detection systems have been criticized by researchers for encoding bias. If the training data overrepresents certain nationalities, age groups, or physical types as historically flagged, the AI learns to flag those patterns as suspicious regardless of actual intent. The AI doesn't know you're anxious because you're running late. It just knows you're exhibiting patterns that score above the threshold. 7. What happens? Immediately after you're flagged by AI. The moment the system marks you, the human response begins. The AI doesn't make the final call. A human officer does. But the AI shapes everything the human officer sees. When a flag is triggered, whether by facial recognition, behavioral analysis, or risk scoring, the information is routed to the nearest available officer. That officer receives a notification on a device, showing your location, your basic travel details, and the reason for the flag. The officer then approaches you or watches you before deciding whether to intervene. If they decide to act, here's what typically happens next. You are approached calmly. The officer may ask to see your documents, passport, boarding pass, ID. This is routine, and they are trained to appear routine. What they're actually doing is buying time for a secondary system check, running your name, passport number, and biometric data through a deeper database query while they talk to you. If nothing further triggers during this check, you're usually released quickly, sometimes in 2 or 3 minutes. But if anything in that deeper check generates concern, a watch list hit, an anomaly in your travel record, an expired document, a name discrepancy, you are now moved to a separate area, and the process gets much longer from there. 8. Secondary screening and what they're really looking for. Secondary screening is not random. Not anymore. Secondary screening used to be semi-random. AI has changed that. Now, the passengers sent to secondary screening are increasingly those flagged by the AI system, not just random selections. The randomness still exists by policy, but the AI-driven flags account for a growing share of who ends up in that room. In secondary screening, officers are looking for several specific things. Document inconsistencies. Does your passport photo match your face? Does your name match your booking? Are your entry and exit stamps consistent with the travel history you claim? Behavioral indicators. Are you nervous? Do you hesitate when answering simple questions? Are your answers inconsistent? Officers are trained in behavior detection. They watch for micro expressions, voice changes, and conflicting statements. Bag contents that don't match your stated purpose. If you say you're traveling for a weekend vacation but your bag is packed for 2 weeks, that inconsistency is noted. Device data. At international borders in the US, officers can legally request access to your phone, laptop, or tablet without a warrant. This is not hypothetical. CBP conducted over 41,000 device searches at US borders in a recent year. They can look at your messages, photos, contacts, and apps. Most people don't realize this. You have very limited legal protection against device searches at the border, even as a US citizen. Refusing to unlock your device won't get you arrested, but it can result in your device being confiscated for days or weeks. 9. What you should never say or do. The wrong word at the wrong moment can turn a 2-minute check into a 2-hour ordeal. This is not about being dishonest. It's about understanding how officers are trained to interpret what you say. Never joke about security. Any joke, even an obviously sarcastic comment about bombs, weapons, terrorism, or security measures is taken seriously. Officers are required to respond. What starts as a misguided joke can result in you being removed from the line, questioned extensively, missing your flight, and potentially being placed on a watch list. Never say, "I don't know" to questions you should know. If an officer asks where you're staying and you genuinely haven't booked yet, that's fine, say so clearly. But vague, evasive, or contradictory answers to basic questions raise flags. Know your itinerary. Know your contact information at your destination. Never volunteer extra information. Answer the question asked directly, briefly. Volunteers who over-explain are often perceived as nervous, and nervousness is one of the behavioral indicators officers watch for. Less is more. Never argue about the screening process. You may feel it's unfair. You may be right. This is not the moment to say so. Arguing with an officer about their authority, the law, or the screening process will not help. It will extend your time in screening and may result in additional scrutiny. Never be on your phone when approached. Put it away. Make eye contact. Being distracted or dismissive when an officer first makes contact signals disrespect, and officers are human. First impressions shape how the next 10 minutes unfold. But here's where it gets serious. Anything you say during secondary screening can be documented in your travel record. It becomes data that AI systems may factor into your future risk assessments. Words and behaviors from one interaction can follow you for years. 10. how long this can actually take, and what happens to your flight. Missing your flight because of an AI flag is more common than you think. A standard AI-triggered flag resolved at the checkpoint, 2 to 5 minutes. A secondary screening with document review, 15 to 45 minutes. A full secondary screening with bag search, device review, and supervisor involvement, 1 to 3 hours. A detainment for further investigation, 3 hours to several days. The airline does not hold the plane for you during this process. If your screening runs long, your gate closes. You miss your flight. And here's the part that truly surprises everyone. The airline has no obligation to rebook you for free if you miss your flight due to a screening delay, even if the screening was triggered by an AI error. From the airline's perspective, you didn't make it to the gate. The reason why is not their concern. You may be able to argue the case with customer service. You may get a rebooking out of goodwill, but there is no guaranteed right to compensation or a free replacement flight. People have missed international connections, weddings, medical appointments, job interviews, because an AI system generated a false flag, and the resolution took longer than the time remaining before departure. This is a real and documented problem, and it is becoming more common as AI systems are deployed more widely and process more travelers per hour. What to do if this happens to you? Stay calm. Ask for documentation of the screening and its outcome. Get the officer's name and badge number if possible. File a complaint through the DHS Trip program afterward. Contact your airline's customer service line immediately, not the gate agent, and explain what happened. Some airlines have internal note systems where screening-related delays can be flagged for rebooking consideration. 11. Long-term effects. Does being flagged follow you? One flag can change how every future trip feels. This is the question most travelers don't think to ask until it's already happened. Does being flagged once correctly or incorrectly affect your future travel? The answer is yes, it can. Here's how. When you are flagged by an AI system and sent to secondary screening, that event is logged in your travel file. Future AI risk assessments may weight past screening events as a factor, not as proof of wrongdoing, but as a data point that slightly elevates your statistical risk score. This means travelers who have been flagged once, even for a false positive that was quickly resolved, may find themselves selected for enhanced screening more frequently on future trips. The system has, in a sense, learned to watch you more closely. Most people don't realize this. There is a concept in the travel security world called travel history weighting. It means that the more unusual your travel history looks compared to the average traveler, more countries visited, more border crossings, less predictable routing, the higher your baseline risk score may be. Frequent international travelers, journalists, researchers, aid workers, and digital nomads are disproportionately affected. Their travel patterns are unusual by design, and the AI interprets unusual as suspicious. There is also the matter of watch lists. If a flag leads to a notation in a government watch list, even one based on an error clearing, it is a slow, bureaucratic process. The no-fly list and selectee list are managed separately from general screening records, but errors occur and have been documented. People with common names are disproportionately affected. The DHS Trip program exists specifically to address these cases, but the average resolution time for a DHS Trip complaint is several months to over a year. During that time, you travel under the same flag. 12. What airports are doing right and where it still goes wrong. The technology has real benefits, but so do its failures. AI surveillance at airports is not purely negative. It's worth saying that clearly. Facial recognition has helped catch real fugitives at airport checkpoints. It has flagged fraudulent passports that human officers missed. Behavioral AI has identified individuals in crowds who were later found to be planning serious incidents. Baggage AI has improved the detection rate of prohibited items. These are genuine benefits, but here's where it gets serious. The deployment of this technology has moved faster than the regulation of it. There are limited federal standards in the US governing how AI-generated flags can be used, how long the data is stored, and what recourse travelers have when the system is wrong. In the European Union, the AI Act, which came into full effect in 2025, places some restrictions on AI surveillance in public spaces, but airports often exist in regulatory gray zones, particularly for international travel. In the US, CBP's use of the automated targeting system has been challenged by civil liberties organizations for years. The system has generated flags based on legally protected activities including political speech, religious associations, and journalism that were later found to be inappropriate. Most people don't realize this. When you travel internationally to or from the United States, your data, including biometric data, can be retained by CBP for up to 75 years under current policy. Your face, your travel history, your risk score, stored for 3/4 of a century. 13. How to protect yourself. Practical steps that actually work. You can't opt out of the airport, but you can make yourself a less interesting target. Let's be direct. You cannot fully opt out of AI surveillance at most major international airports. The systems are embedded in infrastructure. Refusing to participate where that's even an option usually means longer manual processing and increased scrutiny, not less. But there are practical things you can do that genuinely reduce your risk of being flagged. Know your travel record. Submit a request through DHS Trip before any international trip where you expect scrutiny. Review what's in your file. If there are errors, begin the correction process early. It takes time. Book predictably. Round-trip tickets, reasonable advance notice, standard routing. One-way tickets booked last minute with cash to high-scrutiny destinations will generate flags. This isn't profiling advice, it's how the system is calibrated. Have documentation ready. If you're traveling for a conference, bring documentation. Traveling for medical treatment, bring paperwork. If your purpose of travel is unusual and you can document it, do so. This doesn't remove the flag risk, but it speeds up the resolution if you're stopped. Enroll in trusted traveler programs. TSA, PreCheck, Global Entry, and Clear all involve a background check and biometric enrollment, but in exchange, you get expedited, lower friction processing. Trusted traveler enrollees are screened less aggressively because they've already been vetted. Travel with clean devices or know your rights. At international borders, you can be asked to unlock your phone. You cannot fully prevent a device search as a non-citizen. U.S. citizens can legally refuse, but the device may be confiscated. If you have sensitive data on your device, consider using a travel phone with only what you need. Arrive early. This is not sophisticated advice, but if a screening does run long, having more time is the single most practical protection against missing your flight. For international travel, 3 hours early is the new minimum, not a suggestion. 14. The bigger picture. What this means for travel. Going forward. This technology is only going to expand. The question is how fast. In 2026, what exists at airports is the early version of something much larger. The systems in place today, facial recognition, behavioral AI, predictive risk scoring, are first and second generation. They are already capable. They will become significantly more capable. The next generation of airport AI systems will move beyond cameras and checkpoints. They will analyze your online activity before you book. They will cross-reference social media with travel databases. They will use ambient audio analysis in public spaces to detect stress indicators in speech. Some of this is already in development. Some of it is already in limited deployment in countries with fewer privacy restrictions. The question is not whether this technology will expand. It will. The question is whether travelers, regulators, and governments will demand standards, accountability, and transparency that keep pace with the technology, or whether the surveillance infrastructure will grow faster than any meaningful oversight. Most people don't realize this. The decisions being made right now about what data to collect, how to store it, and how to use it will define the experience of air travel for the next generation of travelers. You are not just a traveler passing through a system. You are a data point in a system that is actively learning. Here's what you need to understand. You don't have to be suspicious to be flagged. You don't have to do anything wrong. You just have to look different from what the algorithm expects in your movement, your history, your purchase behavior, or your face. The AI doesn't know you, it knows your pattern, and patterns can be misread. This technology is running right now at the airports most of you will fly through in the next 12 months. It is not hypothetical, it is not distant. It is at the check-in kiosk, the security line, the boarding gate, and the customs hall. Understanding that it exists and understanding how it works is not about fear. It's about preparation. Know your travel record. Enroll in trusted traveler programs. Arrive early. Carry documentation. Be calm, be direct, and don't say anything careless near a checkpoint. The camera is on. The system is running. Now you know what it's looking for.